Okay, great. Recording.
What's up? Welcome to a new episode of Movie Schmovie. This is episode number 298. My name's Steve, and I'm here as always with
Ron
and John.
Man, that was smooth, guys.
Yeah.
No crosstalk, no weird pauses. We are gonna do so well today, guys.
We are.
Good to see you, man. How you guys doing? How you guys doing?
Pretty good, man.
Yeah.
Very acutely aware of our humanity right now. And I think that the best thing to do right now is just, appreciate the people around you and I don't know.
Talk about some movies.
I was about to say maybe appreciate the distraction of doing a show like this.
This is definitely a value for all of us, I think, is we, to come and talk about stuff like this. It is definitely a distraction, but it also is a lot of fun. So I'm glad to see you guys. I'm glad we can talk about this. So just a quick preview of the episode. We're going to kind of go through our normal news at the top. And then the guts of the episode, we're going to be talking about the two new releases that came out last Friday. Drops right. We're a little behind on these, but I think people are catching up to the big releases that came out still. So last week on Amazon Prime, Without Remorse, the new Michael B. Jordan action spy thriller came out. And then on Netflix, the new animated film, The Mitchells versus the Machines, dropped on Friday. So we're going to be talking about both of those movies in today's episode. So we'll get to that in a bit. But at the top, let's get into the news. So what's hitting hard? I think there's one thing that just kind of kicked the week off with a bang, and we should probably talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Maybe I should. This is part 2 of the conversation that we had last week. Roku has actually taken down the YouTube TV app from the Roku store, which is a pretty big deal. I just wanted to name some of the bullet points that they had for the reasons why they're doing it, because I think it's pretty interesting. Some of it could affect all of us for soon. One of them is they have 4 points. So dedicated YouTube search result bar that they wanted. So Roku didn't want that. They wanted to block non-YouTube searches in the YouTube search. Google actually wanted that feature in the Roku. So like if you look something up, the highest result would be the YouTube, and then everything else would follow, which is super interesting. Or not at all sometimes for some of the Roku results.
Yeah.
3 is that it favor YouTube music searches. So any YouTube music search would come up as any research would come up
music,
prioritize YouTube music, which is not a very popular service right now. It's solid, but it's not super popular right now. And then the 4th, which is something that'll probably affect us in the future, is that they want to require that Roku devices use the AV1 codec for their video. So AV1 is an open source codec. So think of a codec, this is super nerdy stuff, but it's the way that it delivers a file from point A to point B. The codec that Google wants to use is an open source codec that's been kind of honed by. It's been Google, Amazon, and Apple have kind of worked together to create this streaming system that enables video files to come in as clearly, as sharply as humanly possible for the bandwidth that you have. It actually makes sort of real-time.
It's like an optimization.
Yeah, it's optimization, which is really cool for 4K stuff.
Yeah.
Now, the issue with that is that Roku devices are not powerful enough to use this AV1 codec, this software that delivers this thing from point A to point B. They aren't powerful enough. Funny enough, ironically, Chromecast devices aren't either. So none of the Google, which is really crazy. So
that's hilarious.
Ultimately, this is what I think should be the solution. And this is just an opinion on this. I think that Google should front the money. If Roku's to do this, I think that Google should foot the money to get people these devices at a discounted rate. And then you kind of say, look, I'm giving you a year, and then Roku devices are switching to this device. And within that year, you can still get all those devices at this price point, $29, $49, whatever the most expensive one is. Foot the bill, Google, if you want people to switch over, because this is a format that's going to be a real thing for a lot of other devices. But let these Roku people come in. If they're the largest share of streaming devices, you got to meet them halfway. And that's my suggestion, even coming from an Apple guy, of how Google should help with that situation. But we'll see what happens, man. This is real cool stuff that could be affecting your devices down the line. And it actually will. But right now, Roku's taking a high road and saying, fuck that, we're not doing it. Which I actually think it said that
Is
in
that the high road?
email.
I mean, I don't know.
I don't know if
guess
that's the high road. Maybe
yeah.
in Google's, maybe in Roku's mind, that's the high road.
The way that they're talking to each other, that is the nicest thing that came out of me just hypothetical of what they're saying, what they may be saying. But
yeah,
it's interesting, man. Like, we're getting to a point where like the cheaper devices are cheap, but there's the technology that they're trying to bring to the table costs a little more. Hardware costs a little more.
Yeah.
So we're at this weird sort of crossroads in terms of these streaming devices, and I hope that Google really does help them meet them halfway. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah.
So
Developing
what else is
story.
going on? Developing story, man.
I was actually the big thing for me, I thought we would talk about is the Marvel video that dropped on Monday. Like,
hell,
that was
yes.
like hey, welcome to Monday. Here, cry and feel things right away when you get on the internet Monday morning. Yeah, so Marvel just basically released this little teaser sizzle reel type video that they normally would announce at like a convention or like something like, you would normally see something like this. We got, official titles of series, phase 4 movies, release dates, which the dates that we can talk about are just kind of bonkers to me. How soon some of these movies are coming out.
Yeah.
And just for the rest of the year, like once you get to like, it's a crazy year.
It's a very fast pace for like a total of like 7 or 8 movies. And, the beginning of the video is basically, just like a recap of where they are currently. And in the end, it's kind of like a let's get back to the movies promotion also. It's like, it's been so long. This is what we missed. This is what we're looking forward to. And this is what we're going to give you to look forward to. But I mean, God damn. And they used the footage that like the Russo brothers took at the theater, like with the audience going nuts at the end of Endgame. It's just a masterfully crafted and delivered promo for Marvel. Definitely has everybody jazzed. Everybody's pumped up. Got a couple of scenes from the Eternals, a couple new clips from Black Widow and Shang-Chi in this teaser. God damn it, man. We talk all the time about Marvel, so much so that we made a separate series for YouTube. Yeah. And yet here we are still mentioning them because they just found a way to basically force our hand, and we can't not talk about this. So
no sooner do we put our Marvel spinoff on hiatus.
They heard we separated.
Then they hit us with something. It's like, well, we've got to talk about this.
They're like, we got to give something to the world that is going to make Schmovie talk about us on their Friday podcast.
Yeah.
The main show, as they call it in Hollywood.
Some of the bigger highlights that, I mean, we're obviously going to talk about the big one with the big elephant in the room, right? Of the announcement next year. But one thing I really did want to mention is the Captain Marvel movie being named The Marvels now, and then Monica Rambeau branding and Miss Marvel,
which is going to be a Disney Plus show.
Yes. Yeah. Branding within this logo. So like, is this because Captain Marvel didn't do as well as they maybe thought it would, and they're throwing in extra characters, or or is this just them adding these brands that they've put into other?
I think it's clever. I mean, I think what you're saying could be true. There could be some conversation saying, of the titles we have, which are the ones that are worth the most in terms of just that name meaning something. But to me, it feels like calling the sequel to Ant-Man and the Wasp. Ant-Man and the Wasp. It just feels like, you know what I mean? Like owning up to the fact that this is an evolving continuity, and that a trilogy or a series of movies might not always be as linear as that. But also, I think it's a way to own up to the fact that with multiple characters maybe being known by that name, they're gonna lean into it rather than pretend there's the one true Captain Marvel.
Absolutely.
So in a sense, I feel like it's very true to what they're doing. Whether on a marketing level, it's also a safe franchise to play around with in that way, because it doesn't have the whatever Q rating or whatever it is that they look at for like, what do audiences just think about this character. But it was a hit. I mean, and it was, reasonably well received. It just, I mean, if you look at the slate of the movies that I don't remember there being that much rapturous excitement about. It's one of those Marvel movies that people seem to think was pretty darn good, but that, you know what I mean? Like it had its detractors. So yeah, you might have a point there. Well, I would just want to double down on what Steve said too, though, and just say that the whole production of this thing, it's produced so well. It's got the Stan Lee speech reminding you once again that guy, whenever he got a chance to open his mouth, I don't know what his politics were behind closed doors or what he may have done that, you know, might not sound good or might be dated or whatever. But whenever he got a chance to talk about social issues, he said the right shit. And he was masterful in that marketing sense, at least, of like linking Marvel to this idea of like, we're all in this together. And so watching that trailer, which is essentially, like you said, Steve, on behalf of the Theater Association of America, just about saying like, this is where you come for these experiences, you know, and we're serving up these experiences that we want you to have in a crowd. It's like, I know it's just trying to sell tickets and to hype a slate of movies, but if anybody can lay claim, you know, get past my cynicism about this, I would say that if not Disney, then at least Marvel, they really have made people love these movies on the backs of stories of characters who come together and characters who find family and characters who try to do the right thing. And I think that uncynical portrayal of heroism and of like admirable people and people that you like to spend time with, I think it does allow it to kind of get past your defenses a little when you see a piece of marketing like this. It does feel like it's connected to experiences that I treasure, on a personal level, not just as a, you know, as like a passing fad. So I think that it is like, it's a brilliant piece of marketing. And I watched it about 5 times and I only teared up the first 2 or 3 times. But you know, they've earned the right. I think we've said this about them. It's almost getting old to say about them. They've earned the right to have a victory lap or something. But this felt like, you know, it just felt like, okay. And it got me excited about things that I'm genuinely excited to see. And I think the little tease at the end when they showed the 4, you know, which is indicating this is phase 4, but there's also a little, they're playing around with our wondering when are they going to introduce the Fantastic Four. It's all just very fun and hopeful and makes me think of a different world than the one that we're in. So, I loved this little trailer.
Yeah, I'm sure it's coming. It's probably going to be another big announcement, maybe for a convention or something. But I mean, basically, looking at it, basically between actually the day that we are recording this on May 5th, between now and 2 years from now, there will be 10 Marvel movies, a movie every 2.4 months. Not to mention all the Disney Plus series that are coming out. I mean, just crazy. The idea, and you know, some of these are kind of, you know, bottlenecked a little bit because of the pandemic, but I think that is really, they've done a really, like you said, a brilliant job of trying to leverage that and make the best of it. You know, like they have these things that need to come out. And I mean, unfortunately, what may come of the way theaters change is that these are the movies that are going to open big. These are the movies that are going to be always in theaters.
Yeah.
For the most part. So it's like, you know, they're definitely going to try to take advantage of the fact that maybe audiences are apprehensive to come back, but if there's going to be something that brings them back, it's likely one of our movies that will do it.
Yeah.
And let's do that every 2 to 3 months and keep that consistent. And, you know, in the meantime, you know, in those in between times, they can go to Disney Plus, and if they want to stay home and they can watch the series, and then we'll pull them back in a couple months to see the next movie.
Yeah.
But I just think the way that, man, we talked on this podcast about like, we kind of got to a point, like, I feel like I'm missing the Marvel stuff a lot, you know, like even though we have the Disney shows and in general, we're missing theaters a lot. And, you know, but the Marvel experience in the theater is something specific. We got so used to having a couple a year. So it is such a, you know, it's like dangling a carrot in front of me. It's just like, it's there. The idea that in, you know, 2 months there's one, and basically every 3 months after that, there's at least one, you know, it's just like, so it's amazing. But I mean, I guess of what they kind of put out there, dates, you know, titles, like I know we've talked about, probably the biggest one that really kind of seems like a no-brainer and is probably going to be probably the biggest movie they release in the next 3 to 4 years is, you know, them actually naming the sequel to Black Panther Wakanda Forever, which just seems like a perfect title and absolutely what they should name it. And it seems like where that movie's probably going to go, you know, and kind of sit in that world a lot more, hopefully. Yeah. But what did you guys like think of the title of that? I mean, the rest of the titles, the dates, anything stand out to you besides that? I know we talked a lot about that on our text thread.
Yeah, I mean, Wakanda Forever is pretty incredible. I'm hoping that they play around with the mantle and the tournament surrounding that a little more, mostly because like that's what I've known every iteration of Black Panther to involve. And sure, they showed a couple scenes where people were fighting, but it was a legitimate tournament. To have like, them fighting for the mantle is a cool idea.
Yeah, definitely.
And I don't want Chadwick Boseman to be replaced at all. That's not what I'm talking about. It's just that's what I've known for the comic, and that's no disrespect to his legacy and what he did. The the big window of opportunity that he opened, where I feel like, although they may have had Shang-Chi slated, and Miss Marvel slated, and these things, like there's something about what that movie did to make other people feel like, man, I want my story told now. And then when it comes, like how satisfying it was for me to see the Marvel's logo and see the Miss Marvel logo, within the Marvel's logo, and or the Shang-Chi trailer, which drove me absolutely crazy.
Awesome.
Or Taika Waititi, who was like, an Aborigine. Yeah. These,
and the cast of the Eternals too. I mean, I don't know. It goes on and on.
Yeah, the cast of the Eternals, a openly gay character is going to be on there. Like it's going to be a bunch of stuff coming, and we have Chadwick Boseman and that mantle. I mean, I'm going to call it a mantle in this case. The mantle of Black Panther that kind of opened the doors to this world of diversity, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's how I feel.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the titles. I've been excited about Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania ever since they announced it too. One of the things that's really fun about it, we know that there's Jonathan, what's his last name? That's playing the villain in that from Lovecraft.
Majors.
Jonathan Majors. And he's playing supposedly Kang the Conqueror, who's a pretty major like time travel related villain in the comics. So I think and they've said that Peyton Reed, the director, has said that they're getting big, like that this movie will feel like thus far they've kind of made a point of the Ant-Man movies feeling kind of small and like little palate cleansers between the other big Marvel movies, but that this one is intended to be kind of like as big as the Marvel universe is getting,
Wow.
Which is interesting because they do that by going in. If it's Quantumania, that makes you think of that quantum realm, and that, so it's like they definitely have you go out in the cosmos in one direction, you go in, microscopic in this direction. But I love that idea of they have my buy-in that, no, you get really, really small and there's some weird alien creatures in there. You're going to find some weird shit. I don't know if that's the plan, but I do think in the comics, there's this whole unexplored world of like the kind of pocket universe within, and I think that like there's a lot of room for that to be kind of mind-blowing fun, and they now have done so much crazy stuff in the movies that I fully expect that could be a lot of fun too. But I do think Wakanda Forever was the big breathtaking reveal in terms of just I didn't even know a title could make me go
I know,
like it just indicates where they're at with it, like what you were saying is like this is an indication of where this can go. Everyone wonders, okay, who's Black Panther now? But it's the Carrie Fisher problem. You can't recast them.
Yeah.
No one wants to see
and they're not
CGI
going to.
version,
yeah.
and no one wants to see this character die off screen. So you have to come up with something that like satisfies, our need for stories. And I've read that Ryan Coogler has concocted something that everybody is saying is very respectful and pays homage to that. So, here's hoping it lives up to this feeling. I can totally understand why the people who are like, oh, these superhero movies, when they announce 12 at a time or whatever, I can see those people, clenching their fists and saying, this is where all movies are going. And what you said, Steve, these are the movies that are going to open big and may bring people back. It's just going to further this problem we have of theatrical, meaning like blockbuster, and these smaller movies being squeezed out, but not having a chance to go see one of these movies on the big screen with a crowd for a long time has made me realize how much I do love. That is a big part of what I like about the movies. And maybe I look at that and I go, there's no way to get like super excited and really live in the world of that many movies hitting you that quickly. But if they're good, it's going to feel like, it's just going to feel like you're watching the Marvel TV show and you're seeing these big special episodes. And I think it's fun for a little while to feel like we kind of get that like boom, 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 boom. It's not going to be that way forever. I do think you're right, Steve, that there's a lot of hangover from the last year and a half. And maybe there is a little bit of a trying to get different directions going. But we won't really know what it looks like for a few years now, because that's when the movies coming out that were developed in this period will start coming out. So we'll figure out
Right.
what that theatrical thing even looks like. Even for these movies, it's still a little bit of an experiment to say, audiences are going to be ready. But I have a feeling, whether it's smart or not, people are going to be ready to go see these movies.
Absolutely.
Exciting stuff.
Hell yeah.
You might say they'll go see them without remorse.
Yeah, there you go.
Quick question. Did you hear the rumor about Gina Carano possibly being reinstated by Disney?
No.
Reinstated,
No.
like she was in an official office.
Yeah,
she's gonna be reinstated to the the Intergalactic Rangers or whatever.
Yeah, so we'll see.
I've not heard that, but I'd be curious.
Okay.
So yeah, you guys want to get into the first of our 2 reviews today? John
Killmonger Chronicles.
Just set it up perfectly.
Yeah.
I'm Clancy's Without Remorse.
Yes.
Ronald loved this movie.
No.
Spoiler alert.
So here's my issue. Here's my issue with some of the casting. Sometimes it feels like there's an over calibration when things are being treated poorly for so long. I want to always see a woman in a role, but I want to see a woman in a role that I believe would kick an ass, or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5
or all of them.
Yeah, and so when you see Joni Turner Smith cast Maryland represent, she used to live in Maryland for a little bit. Maryland represent. When you see a person like her get cast, who does not look like, if Gina Carano was cast in this, or Angela Bassett, let's give a
you know who was supposed to play this role, right?
Who?
Cynthia Erivo.
Don't play with me.
I'm dead serious.
Are you serious?
100%.
She is an ass kicker.
She is an ass kicker.
And she's British.
A little ass kicker.
She's a little.
She's pretty small, but I would not mess with her.
I love her. I think she's beautiful.
I love her,
and I think that she's destructive.
She would have lit this movie up. I didn't think that Jodie Turner Smith. I didn't think Jodie Turner Smith was like bad. I just kind of agree with you that she was kind of, hearing that it could have been
miscast. I thought she was miscast.
For a moment makes me go, oh, that could have been an extremely dynamic, fun to watch character. But instead, she was just like, oh yeah, the lead has to have a friend in the movie, and she was that's what she was, So
Cynthia Erivo.
Yeah. That's what the rumor, that's what a lot of these trades are saying that was supposed to be. I mean, even when I remember seeing that when it was in production, like when they kind of started this whole Michael B. Tom Clancy kind of franchise, but she was the name that was going around.
You know what I heard? I heard Cynthia Erivo arrived on set, and like Jodie Turner Smith knocked her out and dragged her behind like a wall.
That
and
makes
came
sense.
out wearing her clothes.
That's what it was. Oh, weird.
Sense.
But they had to like retailor them all because she's tall, very tall.
Yeah,
and Cynthia is not.
No, I mean it was curious that they fit, but I have to be honest, that's what I heard. So
interesting. It was just a bland movie.
Generic.
Yes.
It was like
generic,
from the
bland.
90s. You know what I mean? Like somehow this was like an action movie from the 90s, which was decent. I mean, like I watched it and it was like, okay, I didn't, it dragged a little, it got a little long, but it's like I kept thinking, I don't know, it was never like bad enough to really turn me against it. It just was right down the middle in a lot of ways. And it did feel sort of like you kind of wanted something a little more dynamic for this actor and for this, just for the potential of this kind of project. I guess I thought maybe it would have a little more spirit to it, but ultimately it was just like, oh, the charge is watching this actor who you've seen since he was a kid and you've seen him develop into this, like manly figure. Like this was the first time I sort of spent more time looking at, like, not thinking about him as a little kid. He still has that few of those little moments where I see Wallace in his face, but in general I would say that he has like fully developed into this, like, like a viable presence for a movie like this. And he might be the thing that drives it forward and that keeps it together. And that shows a certain kind of star power that like you have to nod your head to. But I don't know. I feel like the fact that the first word that you said was bland and the first word I said was generic. I mean, I don't know. It is that. It is paint by numbers in a lot of ways.
Can I ask you guys a question? And I've really been wondering this. Do you think that Michael B. Jordan can carry a movie?
Oof. Yes, I think he can carry a movie, but I don't. But this is a great topic. Maybe this is a whole podcast. But like,
Yeah.
I think he can carry a movie, and I do think he's a star.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a huge fan of his. But I think it's like a bigger question of like, what does it mean to carry a movie anymore? Like because this is a movie that at a pretty big budget was supposed to come in theaters, released on Amazon Prime, and who knows how they'll ever be transparent about how well it did and if there's going to be sequels or whatever. But like, it's like the age of the movie star, like the name would be who you'd ask for when you bought a ticket to a movie. Like, give me a ticket to the new Denzel movie, or give me a ticket to the new Tom Hanks movie. Like, that idea, I don't think equates to box office or movie stardom anymore. Like, but in this case, if you saw Amazon Prime scrolling through a carousel and you saw Without Remorse, and you're like, I don't know what the fuck that is, but you're like, oh, that's the new Michael B. Jordan movie. Like, I feel like people are going to watch the movie because it's the new Michael B. Jordan movie.
Yeah.
And I think that is probably what qualifies him to me as like carrying a movie. I think he carried Just Mercy. I thought he was great in that. And I thought that movie was great. I don't think it matters anymore whether the movie makes money. I don't think it does. I don't think he's at that level. I don't know many people that are. You know what I mean?
I have a phrase about him that I wrote down just as you were talking.
Yeah.
In order for Michael B. Jordan to be good, he has to have an immaculate script. So I have a thing for him. A script can elevate him, but he can't elevate a role.
Oh, that's deep. That's a hot take.
So that's like, for real. Like, I don't think that he's a bad actor. I just don't think that he right now, Michael B. Jordan doesn't know what makes him special. Like, to me, the we like Creeds 1 and 2, but it's almost like he needed somebody to make that movie incredible. He doesn't know what makes him. Michael B. Jordan is acutely unaware of what makes himself special. And some of that is like some of the innocence that he has about him, even though he's like a big muscular dude.
Yeah.
He's kind of a softer spoken dude.
He is.
He emotes a lot. And sometimes I think that like some of that toughness can come through that sensitivity. And I don't like him being just like a brash asshole. I don't like even when his wife got killed, I was like, why am I not rooting for him? His wife got killed. I saw her die in cold blood, and I'm not rooting for him.
The moral scales of this movie are crazy with regards to like what happens and then how much murder there is and how much like he's doing stuff in broad. I mean, it's one of those movies where I found myself constantly going like, and that's one of the reasons why it reminded me of a 90s action movie where it's just like the body count is insane. And there's a lot of like murder and then like, I don't know. I'm not saying like I was offended by the murder. I'm just saying that like, it felt like this movie kind of wants to be in a grounded world, but then it would have really over the top things happen that didn't feel grounded at all. And I think that makes it feel kind of like, oh, it's in action movie world. Like it didn't even feel to me like a necessary, I don't know, like a real attempt to sort of build out this Jack Ryan universe or whatever it is, or the Tom Clancy universe. And I still don't know. And I never found out, is this in any way connected to Amazon's Jack Ryan show starring John Krasinski, or are they somehow parallel and it's just a coincidence that Amazon has both properties? Because those characters are connected in the books.
I don't think it's connected at this
John
point.
Clark is a character in like Clear and Present Danger, I think, and he's like Jack Ryan's friend. Oh, that's interesting that it wouldn't be connected, but that Amazon would
well, I don't think it was. I don't think it was
it
because this was made entirely outside of Amazon. They just happened to buy it. It does not mean that it could not be made into that if they have some sort of rights to it now, because that would seem logical now that they own it, if they do own it, or if they just bought the distribution rights to it. But it doesn't seem like it was produced by Paramount to tie into an Amazon television series,
But it does feel like the beginning of a franchise.
It could. It
kind of had like Jason Bourne qualities. Maybe not. It wasn't the action wasn't as interesting as that, but the way this movie ended kind of felt to me like it was in that neighborhood of like, it's not really a complete story, but it kind of, if it never has another one, it at least closed the loop on a particular villain, but
this is the first Tom Clancy movie I've ever seen that feels like it was made for a video game. Like this is not a part of the Amazon Tom Clancy situation. This is so for those unaware, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six is this character.
Yeah.
So what has happened is this is the first movie that I've watched in that world that feels like, oh, if the next Rainbow Six comes out, that's gonna be Michael B. Jordan instead of this white dude that was in the earlier versions of the game.
The game, yeah.
This is it. This is the launch pad. If this hit really hard,
you saw
this
the
would be
mid-credit
the
scene,
thing.
right? I just want to make sure that we're all in the same world where we saw.
Yeah.
The mid-credit scene.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So this feels like a launch pad for something a little bigger that might have some integration into the video games. That doesn't have quite the care that Jack Ryan had. You know what I mean? Like
it
it's just
felt
like
messy. I mean, I think that's what I'm getting at with the kind of like what's he when he's arrested. It's one of those things where it's like I don't know. I'm not
it just moves so quickly they don't stop to think about any of it.
Right. The logic of it is like really based on like what are the people in the room talking about right now? That's what the logic of it is.
That's it.
It's not really,
which is weird because this is co-written by Taylor Sheridan.
I know.
I that was like a wild catch. Yeah. Like, and honestly, like, what is the director Stefano Soriano, like the guy that did the Sicario sequel, which I thought was actually pretty good.
Yeah, I liked it too.
Like, I feel like there are good things about the movie. Like I agree. I don't think it's flat out bad.
No, that's why I say generic or decent, but not great.
There are like, I feel like every point between the action scenes is where it's just the blandest thing you could think of. Because I do think some of the action scenes are pretty cool. And I do like some of the way that they're shot and the way that you kind of move in the scene in the space, like during the shootouts or, you know, whatever one you want to pick, like the one in the trailer where he like lights the car on fire and hops in the car, like just weird kind of cool things like that. It's different, you know, like kind of take you off guard a little bit, but nothing special at all. Like for me, beyond the fact that I would like to see Michael B. Jordan with the franchise and see what he could do with something maybe that is better than this movie. I'd also like Jamie Bell. I thought he was okay in it, but just not enough there to really be more than just like the suit, you know, who you're questioning the whole movie.
Right.
But
the Paul Reiser in Aliens role kind of
exactly.
But it's like it was so obvious that you were supposed to question him from the first time we saw him that it was another thing you said, how fast this thing moves. It felt like that. I mean, it drags in some ways, but it does move. It glosses over a lot of the nitty gritty of the story.
Yeah.
But like that was very much like, oh, okay, even within a minute, you know, this guy's an asshole. And then they make a point of having a scene very like, at a minute, you know, he's an asshole. And then at like 90 seconds, there's a whole scene where it's like, you're a real asshole. You know that? And it's like, yeah, everybody knows that. And he's like, well, what can I do? You know, and it's just like, but I got to say, like the main villain, I just want to say anybody that's surprised that character turns out to be the villain should just turn in their movie watching card right now.
Yeah.
Stories aren't for you.
The man had a scowl.
That was the most telegraphed sort of turn. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to kick it. It did what it was trying to do, but it definitely, it's got, you know, I'll say this, folks. If you want to see a movie that has the villain saying a bunch of shit that's recorded, and then that's what's used to you know, bring it all down in the end, this is your movie. You know, we haven't seen that in 1-2 movies maybe that haven't had that device.
It's been a little while. Also the emotional beats that they were trying to get across with his wife, like the dreams that he was having, weren't earned. They were not earned. Like, it's just like, the problem is these things happen in good movies, but because you don't earn the relationship. She was pregnant at a party, and then he was like, you know, she's about to have the baby, you're very pregnant, you guys love each other. That was it. And then that's why I didn't feel it. It's nothing against.
And the fact that he just constantly tells everybody that her name was Pam.
Yeah.
You'll never forget that about that character. But otherwise, there's nothing about her or him.
That ties in with John Krasinski too. I feel like there's got to be.
That's the tie-in. You're right. You're right.
No, but
it is.
But honestly, that's another thing too. It's like when I read in the description, when the sentence description, I deliberately didn't even watch a trailer for this. I was like, I'm going to watch it for the show. I'll just watch it. but the description is like a man avenges the wife, avenges his pregnant wife after she's murdered. And I was like, so this whole like 10 minutes of like, I know that's about to happen. It's like, I hate that part of any movie where you know there's going to be a tragedy. Because even whether they make you care about the person or not, you know that it's just there to build up, like you said, Ronald, this sense of like, oh, this is what they took from him. And this really felt, it's, you know, I said paint by numbers. That was one of those things that felt kind of paint by numbers about this, was just, you knew, of course, she was sweetness and light, you know, the whole time. And of course she's pregnant and on, you know, so that he can have this thing that really would break any normal person to the point where they would just be nothing, you know. It's got to be motivation for him to go and like murder a bunch of people.
Murder so many people. Speaking of murder and paint by numbers, you know, it wasn't paint by numbers when that guy got hit by that van.
Oh no, that was surprising. Yeah,
I was not emotionally prepared. I was trying to figure, I slowed it down a couple times and tried to figure out how they did it in a way that,
dude, the way that shot is brutal. Like you actually see it get run over.
Yeah, its body is completely consumed by that van as it passes, and it's like and it's not like they show it in a way that his body transitions. It's like it's a one shot of him getting hit. I've never seen anything like that before. Yeah, cool. Yeah, so I guess what are we saying about this movie?
Well, it's on Amazon.
Yeah, so like, if you have Amazon Prime, you have access to it.
It's the lowest stakes. If we were to say go ahead, it's the lowest stakes go ahead that there is. So it's almost like a
why not?
Yeah. Look inward.
If you like Michael B. Jordan, just watch it so you can be a completist and see all of his movies. I mean, I would say that in the least. And maybe he'll have a better shot at a better movie in this world.
It's one you can put on and kind of have little conversations while it's playing. You know what I mean? You can get up to get some popcorn and say, "Tell me if I miss anything" or whatever. It's not essential viewing, but it's not garbage. It's just, it would almost be more interesting if it were garbage in a strange way. But
if you look at his Rotten Tomatoes, it's like fresh splat. It's weird. It's like every other movie. It's like he purposefully is like, you know, for everyone that I think could get an award, I'm gonna do one that I'm kind of in about.
Right.
And he does it. So
well, it's not a shame, which, you know, a lot of actors have like a movie that's like a dismal flop at that moment when their star is on the rise. This is not that. But that question of whether he can carry a movie, it does make you wonder about that whole idea of him taking on something like Superman, which a lot of people mention him for. Like, would he be? I mean,
the script has to be incredible.
Like, I think he's got star power, but like, does he? Would there be like a void of charisma if he were? I mean, I think it would have to be the right kind of character, because one of the reasons Killmonger worked is because he was so serious and had like a passionate character so that kind of quiet storm aspect of Michael B. Jordan's acting, the strength of that was palpable. Would that feel a little colorless and, you know, a little bit like too generic for something that's gonna charm us? You know, I don't know. I mean, obviously a lot of people find him very charming, and he's a handsome guy, so I don't think that's the issue I'm talking about. There's some undefinable thing that we just haven't seen put to the test. Like maybe his performance as Johnny Storm in the Fantastic Four movie would be the closest thing to that, where it's like he's trying to be like, you know, a charmer. There was a little bit a Fantastic Four reunion in this too with him and
Jamie Bell.
Yes.
No love for Miles Teller. They couldn't even give him like a walk on.
Oh man.
Yeah.
It's
on Amazon Prime.
Yeah. That's our review.
Yeah, there it is. We'll tell you where it's at.
Amazon Prime.
I have confirmed it is there still. So, okay, let's move on to the last title we're going to talk about, which I hopefully comes around all around on a more positive note on the podcast. But this
also
is
on a service you're already subscribed to.
Right, for sure. Most of you are. It's on Netflix. This is the movie The Mitchells vs. the Machines, formerly known as Connected, formerly known as The Mitchell versus the Machines. It's gone through a couple iterations of titles. This is a movie that Sony Pictures Animation put together. It was supposed to come out theatrically. Same thing happened beginning of this year. They sold it to Netflix, and Netflix, you know, just released it last weekend onto the service. This is a movie that's produced by Lord and Miller, Phil Lord, Chris Miller, who did the Lego Movie, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and directed and written by Mike Miranda, who I know from Gravity Falls, but has done a lot of other stuff. But just a great sentence to hear if you're into the animation, you know, these kinds of family movies. The trailer was great, I thought. So I was really excited for this to come out.
Cast is incredible.
Finally, yeah. Cast, you got Danny McBride, Maya Rudolph, Abby Jacobson from Broad City. Mike Rianda voices the son in the show.
He's got some really funny moments.
He's great, man. He's so good. Olivia Colman, Fred Armisen. Who else?
You say Danny McBride already?
Danny McBride, yeah, got him.
Danny McBride as David Harbour, which was really strange.
What's the SNL
Beck Bennett?
Beck Bennett, yeah,
Beck Bennett,
one of the two
and
robots.
Fred Armisen, but it's like,
I mentioned him, but those
somehow
together,
Fred Armisen. I mean, he's funny, but somehow Beck Bennett shines.
Is better. Yeah,
he's so. But I mean, it's like one of the things you'll remember about it will be some of his line deliveries. There's just some really good stuff with his robot character.
Yeah. So,
but yeah, this is a movie. It's on Netflix now. I mean, I'll flat out say this movie was amazing. I love this movie. I've probably watched it 5 times since it came out because my daughter loves it. My daughter loves it.
You're at the age of that. Like, I forgot. Like, Henry likes to
and I'm okay with it though.
Old stuff, but he doesn't watch the same thing over and over again. But when they're her age, yes, you almost
absolutely.
There's one we all like. Damn, let's just put it on replay.
So roll through it.
Awesome. Yeah.
I don't know. What did you guys think of it? Like, I don't know where you want to jump off with this.
Well,
first thing I thought was, I see why Sony's trying to patent this technology. It's the same style of animation that they used for the Spider-Man animated movie that they just did. I think it's first thing I thought was, maybe this is a little too heavy-handed for me. That was the first thing I thought. I was like, this feels a little too preachy, right? But it's so well done. It's so beautiful. It's so random, and the interstitial sort of random animations that pop up, it's so good, man. Like, I like when movies can be preachy but say something at the same time. Like, I think that there's something about family and technology, and what technology is doing to us, and maybe older people are not perceiving, or people that just don't like the technology are perceiving it like we're losing something in it. Isn't necessarily true, but it is true at the same time. There's a lot of like, two things can be true at the same time sort of arguments for some of the things that they're saying in this movie. And I think it's done in a way that feels so smart that I want to see another one. I want to see another movie. I laughed so much during the course of this movie.
It's so funny.
Over and over and over and over again. This should have come out in the movies. There's the first thing I thought was like, I would have loved to have seen this on a big screen. It just feels like a big crowd film, you know?
The little brother, the gag with his phone calls that he's making. Like, the movie
You're talking about dinosaurs with me?
Was funny up to that point, but when that moment happened, that was the first moment my wife, my son, and I, we all like laughed out loud at that, and it almost kind of loosened me up. I really feel like the first 5 minutes or so, I felt like it was almost, I'm trying too hard, is a strange thing to say about a movie, but so often the first 5 minutes of one of these movies is when it kind of shines, like getting you into the world. But for me, it felt like this movie's really trying, it's like they're trotting out all the little interstitials you were talking about, really trying to show me, oh, look at all the stuff we're doing. And I was like, is this movie going to be a little too frenetic? Is it going to settle into a groove? And I think within 5 minutes it had. And then I think all that stuff started to mean more and started to pay off more. And there would be moments where I would just chuckle out loud just at some little silly visual that would come in with like there's a character in this who's making videos, and she's, so the movie takes advantage of like of a pretty up to the minute sense of like what's passing for online videos, what kids are making, what young people are making. I mean, I felt like that's, you said about it being two things, Ronald. I think that's one of the things the movie does really well, is like, it is both the story of a daughter who needs to realize her dad is a good man, and it is also about a dad who needs to chill out and take note of his daughter before she's gone, and it's like neither one of those lessons feels like, oh, this is the real main character and the other person. It's like, no, it's like two main characters who kind of have to find a way to each other, otherwise they're both going to regret the way that they played it. And I think that, again, you were talking about simple messages that come across. I do think this movie, again, it does kind of hit you over the head with it, but it's in that Pixar zone of like having something to say and having that moment that they need to close the deal. They need to say the thing because it does somehow have a little power. And I think this movie even tries to have its cake and eat it too by having that moment and then having a character that is not here for the emotional epiphany that the characters are having and kind of pokes fun at it. So I think this movie just walks that, it's that Lord and Miller quality. And I guess it's also Michael Rianda from Gravity Falls, kind of, it's a tonal thing of having sincerity and having heart, but also having the jokes be really, biting at times, but never feeling mean. And I think that's I don't know, it's a kind of a magical tone to maintain. And the animation, not as innovative as Into the Spider-Verse, but using that combination of like painterly drawing on top of CG, where it really messes with your eye a little bit, where you go, I don't really know if I'm looking at a computer generated character because it looks like a living drawing in a way that is different even from 2D animation. So, or hand-drawn animation. So no, I think it it really, and it's a legit movie. It's an animated movie, but like some Pixar movies, like Into the Spider-Verse, at 3/4 of the way in, it's got like the regular beats of like an action movie or a genre movie. And this movie is kind of a sci-fi adventure, so it has that element kind of kicking as well. It's not just phoning that in. So yeah.
I also just loved like it was a small thing I noticed the whole movie, but like what you mentioned about the father and daughter kind of just like realizing there's two different revelations that are going to be had by each of them and finding that way to each other. I just love that the whole movie, that the mother and the son were such cheerleaders of that happening.
Yes.
You know, like I love the parallel between the mother holding up the cue cards of what the dad should say and the brother holding up the cue cards of what the daughter should say.
Yes.
Like they both just want their family to be like a loving, positive thing. And I just love that about those two characters. They had their funny moments themselves, the mother and the brother, but I don't know, it would just pop up from time to time when they would both like be like putting the father and the daughter kind of in check in certain ways. That was such a reassurance to like be like, oh man, this is a really great family who just needs to kind of get through this and they're going to be okay. And that's just a really, and that's what makes me as a viewer like root for both characters, and that's why you care so much about it, so it's kind of like a funny thing to say, going from a movie like Without Remorse, like where you didn't care about really anything happening or not happening, to like an animated movie where personally you're just like hardcore rooting for them to like get to that point where they both can understand one another. And it unfortunately takes a robot revolution to like to like make that happen. And also, I didn't mention Eric Andre. He's the tech tycoon who's fucking hilarious too. But I don't know. I really genuinely did love this movie. This is definitely the best movie I've seen so far this year. And I agree with Ronald. Like I would have loved to seen it with a crowd because I miss hearing people laugh a lot. And there's a lot of great jokes in this movie. I think Danny McBride and Maya Rudolph are both amazing. Great voice performances. And in some ways, like things you haven't really seen from Danny McBride. Like there's a lot of beats that you're used to with him in this, and it kind of plays into that. But there's a few scenes that are really quite emotional that I think he really kind of pulls off. And I just want to mention the one joke when she's talking about when they went to ride the moose up the canyon or whatever. And the one falls into the river, and they're like, "What about Prancer?" And he said, "Prancer belongs to the canyon now." I was and still am dying anytime I think of that line, because in the background, so they had a watch party yesterday with Lord Miller and Rianda on Twitter. So like I was watching with Sydney, just kind of following along with their tweets, and there was like a shot where they in that flashback where they're getting the moose or whatever it was that they rode up the canyon. In the background, they pointed out that there was like a sign that showed like the moose of the month, and the moose of the month is Prancer. And it just makes the joke that much more funny to me. But little things so like funny, that. Bro. But I mean, that watch party was really cool. Like the people that made this movie, like obviously this was like a passion project for so many people, and all around it was just like it was a really fun experience, like finding the little tidbits that they shared on Twitter for sure.
There's a million things hidden in this film too. It feels like if I watch this film a ton of times I'll notice something. Another thing I thought was really cool, and I think John maybe hinted at it. There are these beats that happen with the next door neighbors where you think that it's going to resolve itself through this family being like, "Oh man, you guys are great." I loved how it ended because that's how people are sometimes. Like, there are beats that this film has that I feel like other movies wouldn't dare step into. There's an honesty about it, even within this like kind of heightened world that feels so real. That feels like we can identify somebody. We can identify someone of our friends and family in all of these characters, and I think that's something that I don't feel a lot when I watch animated films all the
it's
time.
true.
Right?
Definitely.
This film, I do like that there's something outside of the Disney system that feels just as heartwarming, just as cool, just as interesting, that could coexist while this thing, that the big Disney thing, I feel like people just go there for their animated fix. It's nice to know that Sony makes a thing that feels just as heartwarming, just as great, that I'll see a part 2 of. I'll be there in the theater, hopefully.
Yeah, Disney can feel just a little bit processed or filtered or something in a way that other studios have the option of not, and I do think that like as great as Pixar animated movies can be, they do feel like they're tooled within an inch of their life to be a very specific thing often. And the ones that don't click often are the ones that don't have that focus, like The Good Dinosaur or something, where it's like, what is this really about? And I feel like, I guess I'm maybe following on the heels of Into the Spider-Verse, but also following on the heels of Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. Like,
so good.
There's this, yeah, it's subversive. It's got heart. It's got the laughs. It's got the eye-popping visuals. I mean, you don't have to go to Disney to get that kind of high quality family film,
Right.
And that's what this is. I know it's about a family, but I mean, even beyond that, I mean, that designation, family film, it's not kids movie. It's not, this is a PG-13 action movie that is available to kids if they're up for it. This is a movie that is like kind of meant to be watched by a family,
definitely
together, and to flatter everybody's intelligence a little bit. But to be there for kids, it's got the fun visuals, and we've mentioned the kind of robot revolution piece of it. That's it's not like the most richly imagined world, but one of my favorite aspects of it is something I've always thought. I've kind of had my own idea about like a robot, not revolution necessarily, but a movie, a story or whatever about robots. And one of my ideas I always had, this movie does the joke really well, is that like, that like 1 minute after there's this certain level of AI, they will turn evil and they'll try to just eliminate us. It's like, it's like, it won't be like, oh, then over time, it's like, no. The second they went from like having this ability to think for themselves, like not having it to having it, robots would be like, oh, wait a minute. You mean them? That's our threat? Oh, okay, well, never mind. And so I like how quickly, like he's standing there swearing this technology can never turn evil, and it's already doing it,
Yeah.
I thought that. And we've mentioned, a lot of the voice acting. Did we mention Olivia Colman? She also has
so good.
A role that might have gone to Emma Thompson in years past or something. So you have to kind of realize Olivia Colman is having that moment though, where she's like getting roles like this, and she's getting cast in MCU shit and stuff. So it's like, here's to Olivia Colman's moment, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I mean, that's definitely a go ahead. Or like,
that's a go ahead.
You have Netflix, same probably also, but I mean, it's there. It's definitely worth checking out. And I can't wait to see what Rihanna and Lord Miller. I mean, like you said, like I kind of feel like I'm in on anything that they do, and and every time I see them succeed like this, I'm just like, God damn, I wish I could have seen their solo movie.
Yeah,
it's like, what would that movie have been?
Right.
It's like, what could or would it have been?
What boundaries would they have found a way to push and yet still keep it satisfying? Because that's what they've done with these other things,
Right. Never know.
Dang, that's sad, man. Sucks.
And they seem like just like the nicest guys too. Like they are just like every interview I've watched with them promoting this
really
movie.
Normal.
They are very normal guys. Like they're so humble and like they're so funny and just like it comes off as unaware of how successful and probably powerful they are in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And it's just like that is so attractive about them, is that like they're really just doing the work and like making these like funny fucking movies that we all like, and that are just like full of heart and full of emotion. And like, even something silly like 21 Jump Street works on some levels because you care about these characters in the movie, you know.
Right.
And also it's just so funny, you know. So I can't wait to see what they got going. They've got a lot of things happening, a lot of development deals, but I don't know what's coming next, but I'll definitely be seeing that for sure.
Same.
What else? I think that's it. I mean,
Yeah.
I love that movie. I hope people watch it. And I was gonna say, it's the rare movie that like that has gone up on Rotten Tomatoes as it's come out. You know, I think it launched. I want to say it launched. They were like promoting like a 93 or 94% fresh rating, and over the last like 5 days, it's gone up and currently is at, as we record this, it's currently at 98%.
Wow.
So and well deserved, I think. So I hope people find it. If you're on Netflix, check it out. The Mitchells versus the Machines. It's I would say it's a guaranteed you'll like this movie. I don't know anybody who has seen it that has said anything bad about it personally. So hope you guys enjoyed as well.
The worst criticisms I've heard are people who find the story arc a little predictable, or they find the kind of heavy-handed nature of that side of it. But they usually are saying that in the same breath as all the stuff that they loved about it. So it's like, you know, whatever. I think people can say that about like when a movie wears its heart on its sleeve, there's always going to be folks who feel like they were there, like they figured it out too soon, or they knew where this was going. And I don't know how much predictable is a ding against a movie in my book, you know, that just you kind of can tell it's that Pixar thing. Again, the beginning of this movie, you kind of see what the emotional challenge and the obstacle is, and the movie stays true to that. And at the end, it pays off the obstacle it sets up at the beginning. So if that's predictable and too easy, maybe it's not maybe the plot isn't the thing that's going to draw you to a movie like this, but that's not the main thing about the movie anyway. So
right.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you guys have anything else you wanted to mention? Anything you've seen in a quick mention before we wrap this episode up?
No.
Ronald, you haven't watched 7 movies? Other movies?
No.
Damn, it's been a slow week, huh?
It has been, man. And it's not because I haven't had any time. It's just like there's nothing I've been really
pulled towards.
This is not a super duper. Have you guys seen the show Chad? Two things. The show Chad. People hate that show, but I like how awkward it is. It's
very awkward.
It's a rough watch. But that I was going to mention that's worth checking out if you want to be weirded out and want to be uncomfortable and have some stuff to kind of chuckle about. But I've been watching. A&E has this show that I've been watching called WWE Most Wanted Treasures. It's probably one of the best shows I've ever seen in the wrestling world. So what it does is it takes there's a host that's like an indie wrestler that's kind of coming into the WWE, and they have Triple H and his wife Stephanie McMahon, who are trying to build out this sort of museum of WWE stuff. And there's like, sets of things. So like Undertaker and Kane are an episode. So he sends them on a trip around the country to find memorabilia. And there are people that sometimes don't let go of this stuff.
That's cool.
And in exchange, the wrestler will say like, look, you have this. So one was Undertaker. They had Undertaker's urn that Paul Bearer had. And this guy had gotten it personally from Paul Bearer. So in exchange, Undertaker was like, I'll give you like a newer urn, and then I'll give you my outfit, and I'll give you Paul Bearer's suit. So like it was like cool. It's like cool stuff like that. So it takes nostalgia and kind of flips it on its head. It's like shoe collecting for like memorabilia. You really get to see these cool moments from past WWE moments. So that's what I watched. That's what
that reminded me to mention that it comes back out actually the week, it's not out yet, but this week it comes out. The third season of Dark Side of the Ring comes out tomorrow.
Yes.
6th. So when this drops, it'll be out. But the first episode is about Brian Pillman, which I'm really looking forward to. Yes. So that's an amazing series.
Second episode is about a guy that I actually was in really close proximity to, Nick Gage, the guy that robbed the bank. I actually saw him die, legally die at a cage match, a bloody barbed wire match in Pennsylvania.
Wow.
So the owner of organization CZW had this event because he legally couldn't have it in a building because it was so bloody in his backyard. This guy got his side opened up, got cut open, and in front of kids and adults just bled out. A helicopter came down to the grass, and they pronounced him dead before they like took him up into the sky.
Wow.
They revived him enough to get him okay. Insane. And then a couple years later, he robbed a bank at gunpoint.
Wrestling is a weird world, and like it's some of the most interesting stuff about it is the aftermath of whatever career they have.
Yes.
And that's what this like Dark Side of the Ring, this series on Vice is, you know, a lot of the episodes really talk about that, but usually it's about like a turning point in this wrestler's career or, you know, an event that happened in their career. But this season looks awesome. Yeah. Like Nick Gage and Brian Pillman, there's a Ultimate Warrior episode coming out. Like, it's a really great series. They do a really good job, and they get a lot of access to people in the world of professional wrestling. That is just, even I haven't stayed in touch with it with current stuff, but this is more about, you know, the era of wrestling that I was in too, growing up. So it's a great series. So yeah, that comes out this week on the 6th. So by the time this podcast drops, it'll be out. So we'll probably maybe talk about that at some point.
Cool.
But yeah, otherwise I think I'm good.
I want to mention two more things.
I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead.
So Paramount Plus has two shows that I'm watching currently. The Real World Homecoming. So they take the first season and they bring back the people from the first season in a home during COVID. It's really interesting. And then the Challenge All-Stars, where they take people from the previous challenges and bring them together.
For a challenge.
One of the most entertaining, the Challenge All-Stars is one of the most entertaining things. So everybody's like 40 something now, right?
Sure.
And so everything's like legs get you know, they're like winded after they go a couple feet. It's so good. It's like Ruthie and Tech and all those people from back then. Then there's like people from way before that. It's so good. It is so entertaining. Somebody gets a Charlie horse just by getting into the water and can't do the activity. It's like, I can't move. It's like, that's what I like. Older people doing activities.
You're like, yes, something I can relate to.
Yes. And not older, not even older, but you know what I mean?
By older, you meant our age.
Our age. Because these kids were like 19 when they did it. And then it's like 20 years later and they're trying to so good.
Man, I have to check it out.
Yeah, please do. John,
anything else you want to mention?
No, I can't compete with 40-year-olds on MTV. What the fuck is
that? All right, cool. Movieschmovie.com is the website. You can go there, find every place that this podcast is available. If you want to subscribe, or you can just listen to it right on that website. We also have the youtube.com/movieschmovie where you can watch our weekly videos for the podcast and also see our special series that we do from Marvel, Schmarvel, which we mentioned earlier, which comes out when there's a series airing. I think the next one we're going to be talking about MODOK on Hulu, but we'll also be doing Loki on Disney Plus in June, and I'm sure we'll talk about Black Widow when it comes out in July. So we'll be busy on that channel. So if you want to subscribe, turn on notifications so you get the alerts when new videos drop. If you just want to be a video viewer or, you know, follow us that way, that's fine too. If you do subscribe to the podcast on any of the platforms that you can find at movieschmovie.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, whatever, my Amazon, whatever it is, if you can leave a review or a rating or any kind of, if there's an option to do that or an opportunity to do that, we'd appreciate it. And or share it with a friend. Send a text message to your best friend, letting them know about Movie Schmovie, or to somebody you don't like and you just want to recommend our podcast to. We still appreciate it because they might like us. Who knows?
Say, hey, dummy, you know, it'd be a good thing for you to listen to Stupo. I don't know why you Stupo. Yeah. So insult I created when I was a kid. Hey, Stupo. Yeah, anyway.
Hey, Stupo.
Hey, Stupo.
Hey. So tell Stupo to subscribe to the podcast. It's very simple.
Stupo, listen to your friend. They might tell you about us.
You've been warned.
You're so stupid. You're listening to us, and you still need to be told about it.
Twist. You are the Stupo. No, you are the Stupo.
Oh
if
man,
you're listening to us
all along.
It all traces back to that text your friend sent you 2 years ago.
It was stupid
About movie
all along.
Schmovie. You.
Man.
All right, cool. We'll be back next week with a new episode. I think we're gonna be talking about a movie that's coming out called Profile, maybe some other things, but that'll be next week. If you want to suggest podcasts, ideas, any kind of reviews you're looking for, watch them all ideas that we can go through, movieschmovie@gmail.com is the email address, or you can find us at facebook.com/movieschmovie if you want to engage there. That'd be great. Otherwise, we will talk to you next week, and thank you for listening. As always, you've made our day. Thanks.
Bye.